Welcome back, fellow Blue Noses, to the Free Blue Boys podcast. Thank you to all our viewers and listeners for joining us again. But of course, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, like if you enjoyed today's video, and hit the bell notification button so you never miss a new upload from the Free Blue Boys podcast. While you're at it, why not drop us a follow on our social media platforms, links to which are on the screen for you now and down in the description below. Gentlemen, for the final time this season, how are we doing?
Yeah, we're finally there, end of the season.
We are.
Our first one back in the Championship. We say that sometimes, and I was thinking about it earlier, like, oh, we've been away for so long. We spent one season down in League One.
It feels longer than that, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. I think because we've come up different Blues, even though, you know, we haven't actually progressed as much as maybe we'd like to have thought. That's a whole other subject. But, no, it's good. You know, we've got to the end of the season. Obviously, we've got the World Cup coming up for the summer. But before you know it, we'll be back talking about transfers over the sort of July period when that begins. It's one of them for me where, because I remember doing the, you guys won't have seen this, but I think the first ever pilot we did was at the closed season for the end of League One season. We did that at our producer's house, actually, and that whole thing. And that seems like so many moons ago now.
It does.
We've done so much since then. But this should be a very interesting chat that we do here, which I'm sure you guys will interact with us on at various moments across the season that you'll get into, Dan. But it's nice to be at the end of the season, have a bit of a break, and then return, obviously, in July.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a natural end to things, isn't it? Really, you know, we did it a certain way last year with, you know, and again, you know, people didn't see that episode because it was a pilot. But we do try and look at the end of the season with a different angle, don't we?
Yeah. Don't
try to go down the normal route of top goal scorer, you know, top performer, all that kind of thing. And Dan will explain shortly kind of, you know, what the approach you see. But it's an opportunity for us and for the people who watch us to reflect on what's happened, to dissect it a little bit more, because I think, particularly in post-match reactions, it's always very visceral, isn't it? You know, it's like, you know, you're always emotional, and it's a cathartic thing for us, so we're getting things off our chest, we're offloading. This is a hopefully more considered approach to the season as a whole, and we'll give everybody, viewers and you know, us ourselves, an opportunity to reflect on it improperly.
Indeed, we will.
Yep.
And to fully contextualise it, like you mentioned there, Dad, and to give our viewers and listeners full discretion here, the plan here is that we're going to review the season in what we call pivotal moments, and these are going to be 12 pivotal moments in chronological order as they progress throughout the season, moments in which, in our opinion, we think influenced the season, and memorable moments for us personally, us three, as well as the Free Blue Boys as well. And Joe, we come to you for the first one at the birth of our return Championship season. Would have been home against Ipswich Town as the Championship owner as well, in what we call Kyogo sliding doors. Take us away.
That's correct, yeah. So for any of you sort of long-time listeners and viewers, since we conceptualised the channel, I've been a fan of Kyogo pretty much since he signed. I think for me, it's one of those players where I see so much potential, and this being a perfect example in his first game for us when he was partnered up with Stano. And as you say, Dan, Kyogo sliding doors. So in terms of the actual moment itself, you guys will see, obviously there's a foul on the centre half, supposedly a little nudge into the back. Kyogo with just a bit of awareness to loop it over the keeper with his, believe his weaker foot. Great finish, by the way. Rep blows up and it's a foul. It's 0-0 at this point in obviously a pretty chaotic game where we really start so energetic, the most we've ever seen us, and what an atmosphere it was.
Proper out of the traps in that game.
I'm sure you guys, you know, that were there, you know, you guys felt what it was like at that game, riding the high of the League One season, the record points. Fantastic finish, like I say. And it was a real shame because obviously that didn't count. And there was obviously a little moment later on where we did score after Kyogo hit the post, and Jay was there to obviously tap it in, which was quite a difficult finish in of itself. And the point about that moment is that we all know how Kyogo's season went for us. You know, we spent $6 million odd, obviously scored so many goals in the SPL, didn't have the best season in France or whatever, he didn't have many games, but he came here, you know, with some good expectation that he was going to be the man, the goal scorer for us. Had he scored that moment, is there a question as to whether he would have been off the mark, and the confidence and that whole thing that a striker really relies on, you know, would have took him off and he could have got, you know, double-figure goals or whatever it be. You can see how that could have played out. Obviously, he scored the goal in the Cup in the next game against Sheffield United, but realistically, I think my nan would have scored from there, so it doesn't really count. But the point is that, you know, he's a confident striker like a lot of them, and there were so many chances after that game throughout the season, you know, one in particular against Oxford where he slid it past the post. I don't think he scored again until we played Cambridge away in the Cup, and that was an excellent finish. But nonetheless, he had so many chances to score goals, opportunities where, had he scored those goals, would we be much higher in the league? Would we have even made the playoffs? Who knows? Lots of questions to ask, but that was a big moment so early on in the season for a man that we had so much expectation for, and that sadly didn't happen. So it was unfortunate.
Yeah, I think as a comparison, if you want to look at it this way, if you remember Stano's first game in the season that we got relegated when he was on loan, and we were playing Plymouth, I think, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
And he came on and he absolutely belted the ball into the top of the goal to win the game for us. And it was like, that's his sliding doors moment. That's the one that gave him the confidence and, you know, the cult hero status and all that kind of thing to push on. Now, if that hadn't happened for Stano in the first 5 or 10 games, we'll be talking about him in similar terms.
Yeah.
You know, the confidence part of it, you know, and the crowd getting behind you and the weight of expectation, they're massive. And I think, you know, this is a critical point, this particular one, of like the man that we invested so much affection in and so much money in.
Yeah.
And we all wanted him. You know, he had big fans even when he was failing. We all wanted him to succeed, but he just didn't do it. And that moment is like an epitome of it, really. You know, it's like that's when you would want him to put it in and pick up the baton and run on with it then. But it just didn't happen, did it?
No, it never took off, no. And so, you know, it's really frustrating when you see that happen with strikers. And as you said, the affection was there even in the moments where, you know, he didn't put the ball in the back of the net. His fate is obviously undecided at this point, but I think we all know he'll probably be moved on.
I think he probably will be, maybe with a few others as well.
Yeah.
But I dare say in more or less, I suppose, about a month and a half to a couple of months' time, when we're returning for the new 26-27 season with the summer transfer window in full swing, we'll know a little bit more then. But I think you're right, Joe, he's probably going to be moved on. He hasn't lived up to expectations, along with maybe a few other players as well. It's a shame for him because I do think he does have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of quality about him. He's clearly got a lot of discipline as well, but it just hasn't come to fruition, which is a real shame. But you do wonder, if it had come better those first few games this season, would we be in a different position with him? Maybe would be partnered with Stano more often, because there were exciting potential of a partnership at that point, weren't
Didn't
they?
partner up too often at all.
They didn't either as well, and obviously you've seen the partnership now that's come to fruition now with Priska and Stano as well, and that works really well, and there's a number of reasons why that probably works better as well. But I do feel for Kyogo, but at the end of the day, it's a results-driven business, and you've got to go on the number of goals he hasn't scored, which just hasn't been enough for what was promised.
I would agree. Moment number 2, Dad, that's for you.
Yeah, so this one is one that I'm sure will evoke a lot of happy memories for a lot of people, as you'll see on the screen. So this is the last minute, 96-minute winner, scored by the Lyndon Dykes. Header away from a ridiculously bad corner by one of the Blackburn players, and cleared up the pitch. Dimmy runs onto it. He crosses the ball from the right hand side, and Lyndon's there to slide it into the bottom corner on the left hand side. And the 7,000 fans, of which you and I were two of them, went absolutely nuts. You know, I've not been involved in limbs like that for probably quite a long time now. I mean, it really was mad. And the best view of it, ironically enough, is from a Blackburn vlogger who filmed it from his end of the ground, directly opposite us. That's the best view of the lot, which we haven't got here. This is kind of the Blues coverage, as it were. But the point about that particular goal is, number one, it got us an away win. Early doors, and probably set a really bad expectation that
it did.
We're going to win away games this season.
That is as good as it got away, basically.
Yeah. You and I were fortunate to see two of the kind of very low number of away wins this season. Yeah. It was also a point to say that when you need a goal, there's more than one way to do it.
Yeah. There is.
And Lyndon Dykes didn't, in our opinion, I think, didn't get used as often as he should have done.
No.
You know, he's got some similar qualities to Priska. I don't think he's as mobile, but he can certainly hold the ball and win you a header. And I felt sorry for him, and I think he let our manager know his feelings when we played Charlton away, if any of you saw that clip. But it was just that joyous moment where you felt as though the whole trajectory of the previous season, you know, getting the 111 points was going to continue. Yeah, we've got this, and all the pre-season hype from the owners about, you know, we're going to get promoted. Yeah, we're actually on the road. We took 7 points from the first 9, and we've won it against the odds in that game because we weren't playing well.
We were shit.
No.
And that's what people mark as like a team that's going to get promoted. They get points when they're not playing well.
Yeah, I thought that at the time.
But it was a horrendous full storm in reality. Horrendous full storm, because the away games that followed that were amongst the worst of the season, you know, away at Stoke and away at Cov. affected by other things like sendings off and stuff. But nonetheless, the performances weren't good.
You know the players' energy in that game for that goal in particular that you guys would have just seen, and if you recall yourselves, I remember in the post-match, and Chris Davis said, about, we've got the equaliser, we looked like we were hanging on a little bit. Ryan Allsop pulls off a really good save from a corner. And then, when I think there were 6 or 7 players pushing into their half when we were on the break, and Laird pinged it across to Dimmy Gray, and he's thinking, don't all go.
No.
Well, there's a few problems.
Yeah.
There's his mentality. I've said this before on this podcast, but there's his mentality of, I'd rather us get a point than push for a winner and potentially lose. But the players' energy was driven at that point by, the energy that was given to them in the Ipswich game, the League One season before. There was belief there with them. There was that that sort of charisma to go forward and I want to fucking win this game. Where did that go for me? That moment was obviously the moment itself was fantastic, but that energy the players had, that didn't come back.
It was dulled down with Davis's approach and lack of tactical nous, I think is probably the way to go about that, really. Sort of Davis ball as it's been characterised by a lot of our viewers and a lot of Blues fans in general. And it's a shame it's gone that way, really, because like you said, Dad, it was kind of like a false dawn in the end, that match was, of right, now we're mixing it up away from home, we're getting points on the road, even when we're not playing very well for 60, 70 minutes of the game. And we're actually getting points away from home and we're getting wins as well. But like you say, Dad, it was a false dawn and it was a promise that never came to fruition. And I think largely that is not only down to maybe some of the application, lack of application, therefore, of the players, but it's largely down to Davis and his coaching staff. It's that mentality of, let's not push for a winner because we might lose. Let's just settle for the draw. No, we need to push on because the teams that do that are taking the risk and they're picking up the points, and that's the difference between finishing where we have 10th and finishing 6th or above. There's the difference, and that's what it's got to be in the new season. In all likelihood that the club are going to be sticking with Davis because I think all the sounds that we're hearing from the club would suggest that. That needs to be the application and the mentality going into the new season.
Everyone's
it needs
at
to
us
be
now
matched.
in the comments saying, what do you mean he's already gone?
I know. Well, potentially, might have been changed by this point. However unlikely I think that is. But let us know in the comment section if indeed that has. So in which case we might have to re-record. You never know.
Just look for that
in the context of that. But for you, certainly, the two of you going there, as it were, obviously I had commitments to family at the time, the day of the Blackburn away fixture. But what a day to remember. What a day to be there for. I only wish I could have been there.
I mean, obviously you talk about the Blues footage, which you guys have just seen, but I remember the day after there was, I can't remember the name of the kid that does the match day vlogs.
That's what I was alluding to earlier.
And I came across it on TikTok and I was like, that's me. I was running past them the stairs. Someone shoved me in the back or something. I didn't even feel it. I don't really know what happened after that, but I was in the mix with people I didn't know. And the funny part about that is the old man was somewhere supposedly right in front of me. I didn't even see him. I was somewhere else. I'd gone down. I'd back down the front. There was like a gate in the way, so I couldn't even reach the players. But I was just in the mix, and you know what it's like when limbs like that happen. It just kind of happens in the moment. You're ecstatic. But yeah, like you said, and it was a fantastic day. It was only a shame you couldn't be there, but hopefully we can go to Ewood Park next season and do the same. That'd be good.
Hopefully.
It would be good. It would be good. Yeah. So Dan, your turn next, I believe.
This leads into something which actually transcends largely across the course of the season, and certainly statistically, discipline-wise for us as a team. So this is Robbo's Red. This was to have seen us the first home defeat of the season at home to Hull City, a team which we know score a lot of goals, and it was a 3-2 defeat on the day. Robbo picked up 2 consecutive yellow cards, resulted obviously in a red. And we were warned a little bit, weren't we, by the Sheffield United fans of his lack of discipline, and that occasionally he does see red, quite literally in some cases. And he causes problems for his team as much as it reduces them to 10 men. And for an experienced professional, I think that's really poor. And a couple of things that really come off the back of this, not only suffering our first home defeat of the season, which I think if he hadn't have been sent off, at the very least I think we would have got a draw out of that. And I think at the time we were almost deserved for the win at the time, the way we were playing. We were matching toe-to-toe with Hull at the time, really, as a high-scoring team as well. It was a good game for a neutral, really, in all honesty, as well. You're sending off, you had 5 goals over the course of the game as well. But over the course of the season, we are statistically the worst team for disciplinary.
As far as red cards
are concerned, by far the worst. And Robbo has been the worst for that within our own team. And it's interesting, actually, off the back of the home return fixture, I should say against Sheffield United was Hull City. Of course, we played in that particular game, and the first red card they'd picked up, because I think what I was thinking of there is also Doyle was sent off against Sheffield United as well. We played them away at Bramall Lane as well. So again, more evidence should you need it.
Yeah.
But in terms of Robinson, he hasn't returned to the team since the home Sheffield United game and gave away that penalty they picked up a yellow card for, where he quite astoundingly handed the ball
that was
still in play.
moment.
That was
bizarre,
we hadn't clocked it at first, and with a lot of Blues fans as well on the day. But also as well, he wasn't at the ICC for the Players' End of Season Awards either.
No.
That to me is confirmation that he will not be at the club next season.
No,
I think he's fallen out with Davis because he didn't return to the bench after being substituted at the home Sheffield United game. It's a foregone conclusion. Discipline needs to be better next season. We need to be more of a collective unit in that sense. We need to be aware of what we're doing, our actions as individuals, and certainly the players. I think that Chris Davis will take this into consideration. While you do need aggression, and we talked about it so much this season, that we need to be more competitive, it needs to be measured as well. Occasionally, you're going to have to take one for the team, pick up a yellow card, player breaks away, just pull the shirt, bring them down. That goes all across the board for all teams, not just us, but we need to work on that. But I feel Robbo's very much been a negative effect on the team this season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, in Robbo himself, you talk about the disciplinary record there, that is very true. A lot of those red cards have obviously come from Robbo, and he's getting booked for dissent. You cannot do that as a seasoned professional in any of the the four football leagues. At the end of the day, if you do that, you're asking for it. But the point about that is, if you do it once, you think, okay, keep letting it next time. But he's done it time and time again.
Yeah.
Somebody like that is a liability if you're pushing to get back into the Premier League. Other than him, and this is a bit of an attribute as to, or rather a byproduct of the way we play, the discipline part of it for me is in away games. How many bookings do we get in away games? Because we're caught with the press. Teams play through us with a few passes, and then Iwata or Paik or Solis, from January onwards, have to pull people down. That is a byproduct of the way we play. And listen, at the end of the day, like you said, and you can expect here and there, you pull somebody down when a team's on the break and you're happy to take the booking, a professional foul or whatever.
Yeah.
But we do that too many times, and that's just not a coincidence. That's a byproduct of how we play, and we have to think about that next season because we can't keep getting bookings. And Iwata, I think, was one booking away from missing like 3 games or something like that early on, wasn't he? So we have to fix that.
Yeah, I think it's also about, you used to make really good points. I think it's also about the criticality of the time that these things happen. You hear that kind of often used phrase about goals change games. Well, sending offs change games as well.
Yeah.
Clearly, we talked about Robbo against Tull. That happened, to do that. I don't think his sending off against Coventry would have altered the result. I think they'd have still won because they were that much better than us that day. But I could argue that Tommy Doyle sending off at Sheffield United was at a critical time when we could have stayed in that game. I think it was only 1-0 at that point.
We were so bad that game.
It was very poor challenge.
Really poor.
And the other one where I think we could have maybe hung in, stiffened up a little bit and maybe just dragged it out was Solis's second yellow at Millwall.
Yeah.
That was another situation straight after half time, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was.
Where we were trying to get a foothold back in the game and he made a silly challenge and all of a sudden we're down to 10 men and they just steamrolled us after that. Yeah. That's the thing about sendings off, isn't it? That when you look back at them, and we're talking about, 3 games there where, we lost, and we lost badly.
Yeah, we did.
We let a lot of goals in, and, 9 goals in those 3 games we talked about, that's the effect that it has. And that's why it needs to be thought about. Nobody's suggesting that we shouldn't get stuck in. And in fact, it's been a problem for us this season at times when we haven't done enough of it. But in those instances, Jack Robinson was really needless because he was mouthing. He was just mouthing off at the referee twice in 5 seconds. A bloke like him at his age should know better. We saw him when Sheffield United played against us and he was playing for them in the Cup. Yeah. He should have got sent off then when he was having a go at Kyogo. Yeah. So we knew what we were getting into. But Tommy Dawes was reckless, John Solis was ill-advised. It's just moments where people really need to concentrate.
They do.
And just not do stupid things because they have sometimes devastating effects.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. Massive effect on the outcome of games and potentially even a season if you look at it over the course of the season.
Oh, it does. Joe,
you lead us into the next one. Sees us play away to Preston. It is goals obviously coming from Phil Neumann, not for the first time this season. So this one we call Spud Bros and goals from set pieces. Obviously you and Dad travelled to this one as well.
We did. Yeah, it was a really good game actually as far as a different kind of blues. Obviously you guys see the clip there. It was a cross from Alex Cochrane, and Neumann gets the header, and it's funny because the away end was at the other end of the ground, and obviously naturally you think, okay, he's just headed it in. Actually look on the replay, since then I'm pretty sure it was handball. But nonetheless, it goes for us. And it was a good game that was, because we were in a bit of a funny period where the away form and results were kind of not happening for us. So, at home we were still pretty strong. It's like, okay, we're still yet to find the formula away for Chris Davis's second season in management overall. Where was that coming from? And we scored relatively to the game early on. I think it was within the first half. I'm pretty sure
It was.
And Preston had some chances and stuff throughout the game, but it was one of those games for them where they were putting a lot of things wide and over and what have you. But we defended very resiliently that game, which we've not done really many times this season, particularly away. Normally because we concede first. When we score first, I'm pretty sure you said this before, Dad, we've actually got a result in every game we've played.
Yeah.
When we score first.
Yeah.
I think other than Ipswich, I think we lost
That's
that 2-1.
the only one, yeah.
So that's the only one, and that's a testament to what we do when we do go ahead. Obviously, the goal itself, it was well taken, even though he's handballed it. But, that showed a resilience to us. And I remember in the post-match for that game, we were very pleased, weren't we? Not just because of the food there. It was a fantastic pie up north, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Although
potato.
it was great. And that's the only thing I am happy about, the fact that they have another meaningless season in this division next season as they do. Because we'll get to try Spud Bros hopefully next season.
Hopefully I'll be able to join you this time.
Yeah, because we didn't realise it was a sponsor until we got. And I was like, "That's the fucking."
Yeah, it's the main kit sponsor.
Yeah, that's the Spud Bros van over there. But nonetheless, we had a pie, and that was fantastic. And on top of the 3 points, but that showed us a different side of Blues of old, if you will, which I'm sure you guys will remember. Just scoring 1 or 2 goals if we have to by and digging in and showing what it's about to grind results out away.
Yeah.
When that happened, we thought, okay, he's found the formula. What was very shit about that is that we just reverted back again.
Yeah.
Any away game after that, we started to do the tippy-tappy, sideways and backwards, what have you. Didn't score early, didn't try to defend leads even when we were, 1-0 up in the rare occasions, and didn't find ways to get back into games either. We thought we'd found the blueprint with that. And it's a real shame because we didn't, because it was a great night, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was good. It was a good journey. Managed to park close to the ground. Yeah. Obviously, Spud Bros didn't happen, but next time there may be. But we did have a good pie, as we said.
We did.
But the win was, I think, achieved in an unexpected way, as you said. It wasn't something that we're anticipating at all. And the big disappointment is you think, okay, blueprint. For away games. Yeah. This is something that we can do with. And Definitely. I know some of this relies on the opposition in terms of the way they play. And Preston will very much get it out wide, get it in for headers, and Neumann and Clara love that kind of thing. That's their MO, isn't it, at the end of the day? But we came away, as you said, with the post-match thinking, okay, this is something we can work on now. And it disappeared again until probably the end of the season, when we played away at Hull and then at Portsmouth, that we looked more gritty and got back from a goal down in each instance to prove that we got that resilience. But it was pretty much absent after that game in away games, and that really describes the frustration of the season. That had we implemented that more often, we could have had another 5-6 points that could have projected us further up into the playoff positions. I know the whole season for most teams is if buts and maybes. Anybody can look at this who's not been successful, but that really is a focal point because we are bottom 4 in a way, in terms of the away games this season, and a way to fix that would have been to win ugly. But we didn't do it.
No, we didn't. No,
not at all, unfortunately. Dad, you take us into the next one. This one was also a happy ending. It was a 3-0 victory over Watford at home, called Hope That Kills.
Yeah, indeed, it was 2-1. That one was actually, mate, in that game, wasn't it? I think what's important about that game is, well, first of all, to describe the game, is that they were the best team that we played against at home up to that point, and quite possibly the best all season. Yeah. They gave us a real game, and I was relieved at the end that we'd won it, pleased, but relieved as well because they threatened us throughout.
They did.
The thing about the final whistle being the key moment here is, at that point, we were on 28 points from 18 games. You maintain that kind of points per game throughout the rest of the season with that kind of form, and you're in the playoffs. You're in the 75-point area. and that's where we thought we were at that point. It's like, it's early December, it's the Christmas stuff's coming up. We've just won a block of games at home where we've scored 4 goals 3 times consecutively. Yeah. We're on a roll. We look like the real deal now. And okay, the away stuff's got to be fixed, but we're confident we can do it because we can carry on doing this. And this clip is described as it's the hope that kills, and it did, because that was our high point, if you like, in terms of points per game. The confidence was flowing, and December after that was horrendous. It was
probably
the worst month of the season.
Yeah.
We were awful after that game, right through Christmas to the New Year until we beat Coventry at home. And that, I think that period contributed to destroying the season.
Yeah, Watford obviously, other than probably Middlesbrough when they beat us 3-1, were probably the best team. Watford obviously dropped away, and I think they finished below us in the end. But them and Middlesbrough were probably the best two sides that came here for the season. And you're totally right, Dad. I mean, that Watford game, we were there, pissing down the rain, I think it was. But we're just glad that we got another victory after winning those 4-0 and 4-1 against Norwich in that order. And it was what I remember about that game actually is that little clip of Dimmy Gray's goal.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys remember, and he pings it right into the side net, and the rain just falls away from it. It was a really good visual, that was. But that was a great game, and that month, like you say, when you actually put across the points for the season, okay, we're going to be in the mix. As you say, after that, it all went to shit. I think we just started to find a bit of a rhythm in that game. I think we had a few injuries not long after that where players weren't quite on form. I know Dimmy Gray dropped away a bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was a real shame we couldn't continue that, but realistically, that's being the summary. I'm jumping ahead a bit, but that's the summary of the season, isn't it? We do well for X period, and then we're absolutely dog shit for the next 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, we seem to change our approach to games. We become more pragmatic. That's a word we've used a lot this season, particularly in the context of Chris Davis. We seem to apply ourselves more. We seem to be more disciplined, as we've already talked about, as well as we've lacked that throughout the season. And then we drop off again and we go back into our comfort zone, or certainly Davis goes back into his comfort zone. And it just gives you the false hope, very much in the case of the Watford game. And the reason why I said 3-0 initially is because I was thinking of the away game, which we'll get into a little bit later. As
Indeed,
one of the moments of the season, coincidentally.
Yeah.
But it just gives you false hope, doesn't it? You think, right, okay, we've gone against a good opposition here that are in form and gave us a little things to be nervous about later in the game after they clawed a goal back. But their substitute, I can't remember the name of the winger that they brought on. I think he's a European
Eastern
winger.
European player.
That's the one, yeah.
Very good player.
Came on and he changed it for them. And they really started to be a threat, more so than they had been in the game prior to that. And that changed things a little bit. And you think, okay, now we can match these guys. Now we can push on. But then again, not only the home form, but the away form majorly let us down in December until we beat Coventry, and then we turned it on again. And you just think at those moments in the season, and you apply the form that we saw in the last 6 games of the season, would have things been different?
Yeah.
It's interesting to think that, isn't it, as well?
It is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. True.
Moment, which one? Number 6 now? We're going to
Number
confuse
6,
ourselves
now,
here,
yep.
so-
Halfway
Absolutely.
through. Top it down.
So my next one, I believe, in the list of the moments of the season is going to be the ref blocking a Watta with no common sense, coincidentally, as we call this one, against the home fixture. This was the last fixture of the 2025 part of the season. Saw us play at home to Southampton. Where Southampton actually got their goal off the back of this, didn't they?
Yeah.
I believe it was a Villaloney as well who got the goal as well, just to
Indeed.
sour it even more for us. But Watta went to go and play the ball, and the referee got in his way, actually obstructed him. Referee applying no common sense that we've seen commonly from a lot of EFL officials this season. And my God, I know it's in our nature for football fans to complain about football referees, but they have been awful this season. It's the lack of consistency in the decision making. You either get referees that blow up for everything and cards from the get-go, or referees that literally wait to the 60th minute to card somebody, even though you could have easily done it before then. Players making 2 free fouls at a time, but in this case, referee intercepts Iwata, and that quite literally is the case. Ball rolls out wide, they get it into the box straight in. And funny enough, I think it was used, Dad, as well, that as we were watching the game, we were sat in our usual spot in the throw one of the Kop. As soon as that happened, you went, they're going to score from this. And so it did come to happen. It was just so frustrating because up until that point, and I think I used these exact words in my post-match comments following that game, is Southampton were dog shit.
They were.
In that game, they were awful in the context of that game. Bearing in mind, they were chasing promotion officer. They managed to finish in the playoffs as well. And I suppose people would argue that's how teams that finish in the playoff get results, but it never would have happened if it weren't for the referee blocking Iwata in that case.
It's definitely a game that we should have been taking 3 points, as you allude to there, Dan.
We played well in that game.
The Saints were so poor that game, and as you say, teams that are going to, they're obviously in the playoffs now, that are going to be able to go up, get points when maybe they shouldn't do. But we were having a really funny period once again there, obviously to close out that that December period. And like you say, Dan, when we beat Coventry in the new year, it kind of took off again. But we'd had a draw on Boxing Day against Derby when that was just a really shit game as well. Obviously, we lost to Sheffield United just before, I think it was like the 14th of December or something like that. I only remember that because we went away, didn't we, shortly after?
Yeah, we did.
But again, like another 1-1 draw at home, and that was a really difficult period because it was like you alluded to earlier, Dad. With the Watford game, we beat them 2-1. It's like, okay, we kind of got it down at home here. The fortress or whatever you want to say. We can definitely pick up 3 points more times than not at home. But then we started to hang on a minute, and I remember us saying this in the post-match. The away form is starting to seep into the home form.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened with the game. And all about the decision. We talk about referees, and as you said, and you're quite right. It's kind of within football fans' blood to just moan about, officials and whatever it be. But I think a lot of fans of clubs in this league would agree with us that the consistency on a game, 90-minute basis is so poor where it's like very similar fouls happen where a card is given in one and not the other. And that's really frustrating. We need consistency there.
We do.
As far as that incident itself, cost us the game, I suppose, maybe. Maybe probably should have been more clinical with our chances, as we should have been in the Derby game as well. But it was frustrating incident with itself, but in a reflection of the period, that we were in that late December, it was a difficult period, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Southampton were going through a funny patch themselves at that point. I think it was a bit of a dip for them and then they picked up again after that. I think the new manager took over and he'd had a brilliant start, hadn't he? They won, 6 in a row or something stupid. Then they had that dip and they didn't look at all like promotion candidates or playoff candidates. And that's why the frustration's there, because it's another one of those games where you think we should have taken more out of it, but this time there was bad luck. I mean, I don't believe in bad luck that much in football. Sometimes, people say, you've hit the post, you've hit the bar. It's not bad luck, it's bad shooting. Yeah. But this was something that was unscripted and shouldn't have happened, and the referee should have used his head and thought about it a bit more and said, that's led to something here. Yeah. It's his positioning at the end of the day. That's something that they're coached on, they're trained on, they have to pass tests about. And, I notice it quite a lot this season, referees kind of getting in the way of play, and it's frustrating.
We watch games, don't we? Like, fucking move, ref, you fucking pencil.
We do.
Just standing there.
Yeah. And they do look like pencils, don't they? I know the laws about the ball being obstructed by the ref, but that was tantamount to it anyway. It was almost worse, actually.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating, but it was a kind of a collection of concerns overall about the fact that we'd drawn games like Charlton was another one, wasn't it, at home, where we should have got better and we should have got better results out of it. And it meant that the away form now came into sharp focus, as you say. It was starting to be a real Achilles heel because we weren't winning at home. So I think that got us in that mindset that, this is slipping. And that's at the end of the month. It was the last game of 2025, as Dan said. In the first game of the same month, when we'd beaten Watford, we were at a different level of expectation.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how quickly things can change. But talking about kind of, how things can change, Joe's going to lead us on the first game of 2026.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Dad, because Watford had the first game of December in the last month of 2025. First game of 2026, obviously we went to Vicarage Road. After a very difficult period, obviously, and we go there, we never really do that well anyway.
No, I can't remember us ever doing well there.
And it was nothing that happened in the 90 minutes. As you guys know, we obviously lost 3-0. But it was after the game, tensions were very high, and this was the start of where fans started to say things to players, obviously to the manager, even though he's turning a blind eye to it. Never seems to think that it's him for some reason. But Marvin Duck's getting into a little altercation with the fan, with angry duckers, as we're going to call this one. Where I think I remember seeing online after it actually, where it looked like somebody was saying the fan that had initiated the conversation or rant or having a go at him by saying something to him, and he's come over and to be reactionary to it. I still don't know to this day whether it happened one way or the other, but the point is, as a professional on the pitch in a very difficult time where you've got to stick together as best you can and just realistically take the shit from the fans for when you're just not playing that well and results aren't going for you. As fickle as football fans can be, including ourselves, at times, it is what it is. You've got to take it on the chin. Marvin Dux reacts, and obviously it's getting plastered all over social media, so that was not a good look. And at that point, as we've alluded to earlier in this podcast about, the discipline, and that showed at that point, and it was a very difficult thing to see because it was like, how far do these cracks go here? Marvin Dux arguing with fans, a lot of the players looking quite disappointed, obviously after a really bad run of form. And the crazy part about that is that he scored 2 goals in the next game at home against the league leaders, and obviously bagged himself 11 goals or something this season. And it's almost like he's one of those players, and he said this on record before about big game, big players type deal, or about the fact that we had some big games on like Tuesday nights against whoever where he just hasn't turned up where we'd needed the points. Not just the big games against the league leaders at home where he's going to turn up. That's great. But it's like he needed that to motivate him to actually score those goals against the league leaders.
Yeah.
You can't rely on those sort of things to fuel you.
No.
When things are against you. I understand it's difficult just even as people to maintain your motivation. Realistically, you have to be disciplined. Motivation comes and goes. You have to just do things to do them so you reap the rewards later on after doing it for so long. And he has to know that, and realistically, I don't think he'll be with us for next season. Obviously, another incident which I'll allude to here. Obviously, we all know about his drunk driving incident. The club obviously dealt with that internally. He hasn't really had many minutes since as he's come on as a sub here and there. But even that as an example, I don't want to call the guy out or make it a whole thing because we all make mistakes. Obviously, I'm glad nobody was hurt in that incident, but you can't be so reactionary all the time like that and just show up kind of when you want to, and that was an example of that for me.
I think it was. It's kind of reflective of the character, isn't it? Reflective of the man. And it, like you say, why does it need to be a catalyst of something like that for him to start playing well? Yeah. You come into the club and you would have known the ambition of the club and the expectation and the reason why they brought a player of that quality in, or seemingly of that quality. And it was a real sort of low point in the season for me. Out of all the away games that we've had all season, we've had some really poor away games this season. That for me was the lowest of the low.
It was so bad.
It was terrible. Yeah. I was watching it on TV as we weren't able to make the game that weekend, were we?
No.
Because it was in between the Southampton and the Coventry game, and there was quite a close cluster of fixtures at the time, wasn't it, really? And obviously over the Christmas period you got commitments with family and everything else at the time, haven't you? But for me, the second goal went in and I turned it off. I was like, I know exactly what's going on here. Davis has reverted completely into his comfort zone and we're inviting the opposition onto us. And Watford were on a good run of form at the time as well, and particularly at home in a place where we never do very well. And that was just, unfortunately, the nail in the coffin at the end of that. Like you say, regardless whether it's been initiated by Dutch or the fan, it doesn't really matter. As a professional footballer, if the clue is in the name, you are charged with acting as a professional in that capacity. And he just didn't do that. And unfortunately, I think when you look at Dutch's season as a whole, when you contextualise everything that's gone on with him, it's reflective, I think, of his overall character.
Yeah.
If I can characterise it quite literally as that, no pun intended, that we've expected better from him and it just hasn't come to fruition, much like Kyogo, but from a different perspective.
Yeah, he's a one-man emotional roller coaster, Marvin Dukes, and he's like he'd be a psychologist's kind of dream, really, to study how he operates. The fact that he used that to kind of energise himself, not only to score against Cov, but then against Cambridge away in the Cup, and also I think away at Sheffield Wednesday as well. He went on a run, didn't he, where all of a sudden he looked like the man who might, the one that was the missing piece, We don't need Kyogo now because we've got Dutch.
Well, we even said he's undroppable. I think I said it myself.
Yeah, we absolutely did, and he was playing like that, but it shouldn't require that kind of motivation, should it, really, that somebody's giving you a telling off, I'm pissed off about it, so I'm going to fucking show you, It shouldn't come down to that. And you made a really important point here, Joe, and this leads into the next one, actually, the next moment, because this is about discipline again and management of people. What goes on behind those closed doors at St Andrews at Knighthead Park, and the training centre we don't know about, but we can pick up on kind of little bits and pieces that you can put together to form a picture. And this one didn't happen during a game, this particular moment. So we're calling this one People, because this is about Keshi Anderson's first interview when he left the club and signed for Portsmouth. And you didn't really have to be kind of a genius to work out who he was talking about when he made references to kind of his time at Blues, and then in a later interview made reference to somebody he played for who was a brilliant coach but a terrible man manager, the worst he's ever played for. And that brings into question the bigger kind of issue of what are Chris Davis's skills in that area, if indeed he has sufficient skills, because we're talking about Marvin Dukes, largely through his own kind of mistakes, but we are talking about Mark Leonard, talking about Lyndon Dykes, and we're talking about Keshi. Now, if it was one or two, maybe you'd let that go, but when you're getting into 4s and 5s in the same season, you do start to think, hang on a sec, there's something going on here, in terms of the players' relatability to the man who's supposed to be kind of coaching and managing them. I've heard some other little kind of snippets that say that he's got an attitude towards people lower down in the club. talking to them in a condescending way. And that doesn't really kind of endear yourself, does it? You know, to the people that are kind of ultimately running the club as well as you are. And that was a kind of really interesting moment for me to kind of. And some people might say, "Well, Keshi's just like that. That's the way he is." I've not seen any evidence of that before. But when you add it together, as I say, with all the others, it starts to form an uncomfortable picture, and that's what I drew from it.
I think it's no smoke without a fire with stuff like that.
I'd agree.
As you say, Dad, it's one or two people who think, okay, you know, it is what it is. It probably happens every club. But 4 or 5 people, and then little rumours here and there, you know, the whole thing about, Phil Neumann and Chris Clara and the whole fight thing. I don't think that ever happened, but you get little things with, like, I'm sure you guys probably would have seen the clip at the end of the Portsmouth game where he's consolidated with Patrick Roberts, and, you know, it could just be something along the lines of Patrick Roberts hasn't got any minutes, so he wasn't very happy about that. But Davies walks off, and Patrick Roberts is kind of shaking his head. So that's another thing. And then there's been little things, rumours about him and Doyle, Chris Davies and Doyle, Chris Davies and Phil Neumann. There's too many instances, and it's kind of like if you're before the court, and the jury can't decide on a decision. It's circumstantial evidence sometimes that can convict, and this is a case of that.
It is very much so, and like you say, Dad, as well, it's not just a case of one incident, it's multiple instances. And people talk, don't they, and particularly in this day and era of social media everywhere, fire spreads very, very quickly. But I do take on what you say there, Joe, and using the same analogies, and there's no smoke without fire. I think there's just too many instances of it, as it were, not only obviously with Keshi Anderson particularly being the most vocal one, but also when you add the reaction following the Charlton away game and Lyndon Dykes. You've also got the Mark Leonard incident as well, where apparently he did fall out with Mark Leonard prior to departing out on loan to Hearts, which potentially he might win an SPL title off the back of that. So silver lining there for Mark Leonard, and I do wish him the very best in that respect. But there's just too many instances of it, and you do think either, is this the way that Davies is going to operate going forward as a manager, or is this something that maybe he could take a learning opportunity from and adapt his way? And this is where a number 2 is really important. Is Ben Petty functioning in that same capacity and using that same attitude and just feeding off Davies and thinking, well, this is the way I'm going to do it as well? Or is he trying to be a secondary effect? In as much as his approach is going to be different and he's going to be more of a people person.
You don't want to guess.
You've got to have the balance, but you don't want to second guess the man either. So it's one of them. Clearly, Davies is very much in control in this, and that would probably suit his MO and the way in which we come to know Davies. Not only the way he conducts training, the way in which he plans the team every week, and the way he applies his tactics every week as well. That would probably follow suit. That has got to change because players talk. It's like any workplace, you know, when you look at maybe going to go and get another job, you talk to people if you know anybody who works there. It's going to be the same with professional footballers. They're not going to endear a manager that has poor people management skills because they're just not going to go for it, because at the end of the day, if they can go to another team in the division and be paid the same money, that's what they're going to do. So you do wonder, in terms of a recruitment perspective, how this is going to affect things going forward, if indeed it does.
Agree. Great points there, Dan. Great points, and it stays with you to lead us into the next one, really.
This is called the Power of 3, and this was very much almost kind of an odd away performance, because we actually picked up a win, a 2-1 win away to Norwich. This was where great build-up play, going through 3 different players, ended up with Marvin Dutch for the goal. Brilliantly well worked. Goal, real team goal, something we didn't really come to see, particularly the style of play we've played with, very passive, possession based, and not really moving the ball forward with any intent. This was round about the time though that we acquired the January signings, and people like Vicente and Nimrim Osman were starting to move the ball out wide in a very positive way, something we hadn't seen very much from Davies and the team recently. It was a good performance. It was a complete performance. We were 2-0 up before even Norwich even responded, and we were very much in control. But it was a wonderful goal to see, and you just think to yourself, and much like many moments of the season and sort of overall in the season, if buts and maybes, if we'd have done this more away, I think it would be a very different position we'd see Blues finishing this season. But it was a well-worked goal, well taken by Dutch, and something in which, a role in which he functions in very well. It's one-touch football. He isn't really a player that takes such and has a look, which I think would probably be advantageous to him a lot of the time, but it worked well in this instance, and really well taken goal.
Yeah, I think it was quite an instinctual finish. He obviously knew where the keeper was. He was kind of half coming out of his goal, as far as I remember.
He's that kind of player.
Yeah, and obviously, as you say, the January signings were involved in that game itself. Obviously, we had Vicente and Prisk were playing in that game. Obviously, Vicente scoring, I think, the first goal as well, didn't he?
He did.
But obviously, great finish from Marvin Duction. That was just, as you say, a perfect example of the fact that we do a lot of sideways and backwards. It took 3 passes for us to move up the pitch that quickly against a Norwich side that were very much in form as well. That was when they really started to, come into their own and realistically not just pull away from the relegation fight, but they finished ahead of us as well by 1 or 2 points max. And obviously, Clement obviously knows what he's doing now. I'm sure they'll be sticking with him next season. But to go there and hurt them that quickly with 2 goals, which I remember like some of the vloggers and stuff that were at the game for Blues couldn't believe it. But 2-0 up inside 25 minutes or something like that, when normally we're 2-0 down within that time frame. It was just ecstasy for us, and I think that was the 2 goals really that gave us the victory. Because second half we kind of pulled back, didn't we?
Yeah.
To the same old, and it was a really poor second half from us. But that was a pivotal game because we won that, and we thought, okay, it's really on for top 6 here, because we started to drift a little bit. Won that game. Then the shit really happened, because I think we lost 3-0 away at Millwall after that.
Yeah, I think it was 3 defeats in a row, weren't there, after that one, which killed it all off, really. I mean, the power of 3 has kind of been resurrected a little bit in the last kind of 5 or 6 games.
Yeah. I think so.
Where moving the ball forward with intent and doing it quickly, that's what it was.
Yeah.
You're not going to score 3-touch goals every time, but it shows what the possibility is if your mentality changes. Boz brought the ball out, as you guys will have seen on the clip on here. Boz brings the ball out. It's a one-time pass into Prisk, who's running behind the defence. A one-time pass from August straight across to Marvin, who puts it, first-time touch into the net. 3 touches from our own penalty area into their net.
Yep.
And that's got to be your aim. You're not always going to be able to achieve it, but if you've got that mentality, that's what kind of gets you on the front foot, moving up the pitch instead of kind of staying in your own area, which we did a lot of this season, particularly in away games. And that's, we called it the power of 3, but it's the power of quick thinking, of quick moving, of getting the ball into areas that are dangerous to the opposition. Yeah. That's what we need. We need it to be kind of, instinctive and move it with intent. Yeah. And a lot of people have used that word this season. Even Chris Davis at times, unfortunately, didn't adopt it enough, did he? No. But yeah, I think that's a perfect example of what we could have done. There's a lot of couldas in this podcast, actually. Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I guess we're even moving on to another coulda, really, with the next one, Joe, which is yours.
Yeah, this one we call the penalty finally drops, and this was Patrick Bamford's goal in our 1-1 draw against the Blades at St Andrews. And I remember the post-match for this that us guys did, and I think a lot of people watched it and agreed with us. The frustration was so high at this point, because I think before that we'd obviously lost against Middlesbrough at home 3-1, and we obviously had that away at the Valley, and we lost 1-0 away at Charlton. That was really frustrating. I remember the post-matches to those games, we were like, yep, we're done, we're out of the top 6 now. But there was still probably a glimmer of hope that, if we get a win, you're kind of in the 6 point, and it's, there's 7 or 8 games still to go at that point. If we'd beaten Sheffield United, which we should have, that would have been something. And the goal for Patrick Bamford itself, it was a simple ball over the top we got cut out with, which we rarely do this season, because we had the centre-half pairing. I was 2 big fuckers in the middle. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go over him. We get caught actually quite high up the pitch at that point. Excellent finish from Bamford, as you'd expect. The point about that game is that they went down to 10 men for a large part, and we did not punish them. And that was the thing that we really hit home in that post-match, didn't we? How many teams this season had managed to punish others, even from, near the bottom 3 and punish teams in the top 6 when they've gone down to 10 men? And we failed to do that, and that is a reflection of the way that we play. You just alluded to it there, Dad, with the power of 3. We slowed the game. And listen, you expect, 10 men to sit on the edge of their box, but we still failed to break them down. We didn't put crosses into the box. We didn't even get past the first man with some free kicks, big opportunities. That was a really disappointing draw.
Yeah. It was, and we failed to diversify our play and our approach in that instance. A lot of teams, like you say, in that instance, Joe, and that day alone, because there was a couple of other games where teams had gone down to 10 men and then were punished for it, they lost the game. We didn't put Sheffield United enough to the sword that day, and it was there for the taking. And the frustration really boiled over that day. It really did, especially for us in the post-match. I know some people thought it was uncharacteristic of us, but at that point we just had enough, hadn't we?
Listen, it's a post-match reaction. Sometimes people come on there and say, "Oh, it's a bit," but look, we watch the same guys. We watch the same game that you guys have. And most time people agree with us, don't they? But
they do.
You got to remember their reactions straight after the game. you collect your thoughts for a little bit afterwards and you kind of rationalise a little bit more. But
You
for
do.
that game, we were pretty pissed off.
We were. It was awful. It was nowhere near good enough. It was so passive in the way in which we approached. And like you say, when you look at the power of three and the way we played to go out to Norwich, and even games prior to that, when you look at the best home game we had all season, which I still maintain to this day was home to Coventry, if you can take it to arguably and what is ultimately been the best team in the division all season, why aren't you doing it when you're playing against 10 men against a lower mid-table team?
Yeah.
Why are we not putting them to the sword? And there was too many instances of it that season, and this is where Davis's arrogance, whatever you want to call it, reluctancy to change things up and motivate the players to push the team forward. And we saw it as early as the away game, like we've alluded to, against Blackburn Rovers, despite picking up the win, telling people to stay back and not pushing on. No, that's where it's there for the taking. You need to hold teams to the sword at that point and pick up the points, and we just failed to do that too many times this season. And like you said, it's become a season of woulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, what's interesting is when we went down to 10 men, I think we were punished nearly every time.
Yeah,
Pretty much every
that's
time.
a good point.
Yeah,
We were.
you know, against Hull, against Sheffield United,
Millwall.
against Millwall, we seem to be the ones who folded, and yet when we get the opportunity, it didn't work for us.
We just bottle it.
Good point.
And that's what's kind of concerning there, because it's about having the bottle, as you said, Dan, there, to be able to push the advantage forward. Chris Wilder's an experienced manager. He knew what he was doing there. All the little tricks come out and stuff. But there's still ways past these things. There are 10 men are still 10 men. They've got the same ground to cover as you with one less pair of legs. So it tells you, that you should be able to do it by judicious use of substitutes. I said it in the end to get round that. But we just didn't. It just didn't occur, did it? I pointed at the board during that post-match reaction, which one of our viewers reminded me of in a subsequent game. But that's how annoyed and angry I was about it at that point, because you just sense, again, the opportunities passing us by. And that was the whole frustration about that game, and it epitomised how we'd thought throughout the whole of the season.
So it stays with you, Dad, at this moment?
It does indeed, yeah. This one is a kind of... We're coming back again, we're circling back to the referees again on this one, or the officials, I'll probably say in this. But also a bit of a bugbear with a particular team this season, which is Ipswich. And it's not just against us, actually, that this has happened.
I'm glad you picked up on this, Dad, because I have as well.
Yeah, so as you'll see from the clip, guys, this is the one where Ibrahim Osman had kind of got round the back of the Ipswich defence very well, again on the left wing. He'd kind of brought the ball forward into the box and struck a shot towards goal, hit one of their defenders and gone in. Now, almost straight away, the linesman said that the ball had gone out of play.
Yeah, it did.
All of the replays slowed down will tell you that it clearly didn't go out of play and that goal should have stood. At that point, we were 2-1 down. We could have drawn it back to 2-2.
It would have changed the game.
And Ipswich weren't impressive that game.
No.
They said, I thought a few of their fans commented on our post-match and said, you're the best team we played this season, are you? You're the ones who kind of made it the most difficult for us and got ahead and caused us problems. And we could have taken advantage of that. But this time, it wasn't through any lack of effort of our own, because I think we did apply ourselves very well in that game. It was the start of this period of, this kind of more direct play and improvements. Yeah. Exactly. But this time, we were denied by probably or possibly the poorest decision of the season, next to the other one, which was also bad, which was giving them the penalty in the home game.
Yeah.
So twice they have, taken points off us through poor refereeing decisions. Now, I think I was watching Simon Brew, actually, and he was saying Ipswich won promotion by 1 point. Imagine if the referees and the officials had done their jobs in simply the games against us. They wouldn't have done it.
They'd been in the
They wouldn't have
playoffs.
got up.
It just shows how tight the
It would have been
margins
Millwall
are.
going up in the automatics.
And this has been repeated against other teams for Ipswich. And I don't believe in a team kind of hogging the luck. I think it shares itself out eventually. But this season, they've had a lot of it.
They have.
Yeah, it's fine margins, as we say there, and it's lots of if, buts and maybes, as it were. I'm sure if there's any Ipswich fans watching this, probably laughing at us now. I think somebody even said about George
In which case, they
Hurst.
probably can, to be fair, in all honesty.
I don't mind that. They've done it.
No, not at all. Goes around, comes around.
Yeah, it's fair enough at the end of the day, because they have to pick up points in other games where, because like you're saying, we lost them to 2-1 there, and we probably should have got something. Obviously, they were really poor, but they managed to do it in the end on the last day. They
did.
They were playing QPR, I think, wasn't it? But they got the job done when the pressure was on them.
Yeah.
So fair fucks, they've done it over 38 games, and we didn't. Whatever it was the Premier League, and it was ours is more
46.
than that. That's correct, Dad. Yeah, but the point is, obviously, ride your luck when you do, and okay, it's frustrating because there's been lots of other teams in this division where they've said, they've had some against us here and there, but they've had to do it over 46 games. So Fair enough.
Yeah, it is. At the end of the day, you can't look at 46 games and potentially even blame a few isolated refereeing decisions, but they have had more of the rub of the green, I think, than other teams. And I don't think only just we're saying that as Blues, I think other opposition teams are saying that throughout the course of the season, because it's affected them as well, indirectly or directly when they've been playing Ipswich. But I think as well, teams like Ipswich, this is how they get the job done. Kieran McKenna's an experienced manager at this level, and when one of our previous podcasts many months ago, I think I said, if it wasn't for Davis, I'd probably take Kieran McKenna.
Yeah, I said the same.
Just because of his expertise at this level and his ability to just grind results out, no matter which way you do it, whether it be through look at the decision for referees or poor refereeing decision, you get the job done. But you do wonder, like you say, Joe, if those refereeing decisions hadn't gone in their favours and we'd have scored the goal, levelled it at 2-2, and that maybe even been the end result that day, because, as you say, and as Ipswich fans did say in our post-match reaction to that game, they weren't playing well that day. And you do wonder what would have happened, whether they fallen into the playoffs and then Millwall taken their place.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder, and it changes the trajectory of the season and where teams finish, and it does indirectly have. I don't believe a lot of the time referee decisions have a particularly definitive effect on where teams finish or what happens in future games or where teams, whether they get promoted or relegated. But I think in this instance, it's fair to say that it probably has had an effect on where they finish this season.
Yeah, they didn't have many games to correct it. That's the point. It wasn't like it was the second game of the season or even the 22nd. It was something like the 41st, wasn't it?
And when it happened to us, it was the first game. We had a lot of games to correct it.
Oh yeah,
we
still
did
managed to fuck it up. Really.
And there's the difference.
Yeah,
there's the difference to talk about. But the last point of the season as well comes back to me as well. Last game of the season, coincidentally enough, as we talked about there, Ipswich obviously playing QPR. Our last game of the season called. Sealed us travel to Fratton Park in a 1-1 draw with Portsmouth, and the first league goal for August Priska, and this one we call Roll on August, giving him some coincidentally some confidence going into the closed season and going into the new 26-27 season, as we will return for like June, early July. But it was great to see him get on the scoreboard as well, and it was correctly called by both me and you as well, Dad, that he would score in that game as well. Really pleased for Lad, and you could see it in his post-match interview. He was so pleased to get on the score sheet as well. He's been working very hard recently, Priska, off the ball, creating opportunities for his teammates, knocking the ball down. I think he's been getting more used to the physicality at this level as well, which is really good to see, because I think he struggled with that initially. And it's great to see that he's got some game time, and I think there's a real player there.
Yeah.
There's resale value as well, and I think he's going to do a lot of good for us next season.
Yeah, only 22 years old. And it's funny, he was saying, wasn't he, in his post-match, his dad obviously played for Portsmouth.
He did.
30 games, something like that. I looked it up online. Obviously, you found that the celebration said they remembered the name with Prisk on the back, actually scoring a goal at Fratton Park. But I really like the lad, 22-year-old, as you say, Dan, resale value there. It just seems very down to earth, even in his interviews and stuff, he doesn't seem sort of that media trained or whatever. And I like his honesty on the pitch as well, as you say, Dan. He puts himself about. What I like about him is that obviously he's still learning this league and, get himself a good pre-season in for the next season. But his ability to win the ball up high, and we talk about the power of three earlier, with moving up the pitch so quickly. This is a simple ball up to him, head it down to someone, who's in the 10 or the wide man. That gets you up the pitch just like that. You ain't got to fuck about with, 15 plus passes to get it over the line and score a goal. Get it up to Prisk, put it out wide, get crosses in, scored the header like he did against Portsmouth. Okay, it was a free header, but he had to put it in the back of the net nonetheless. But he had other chances, didn't he? I mean, when we played Albion, obviously it was given offside, but he scored a header there. He came really close, 2 chances when we played, I think it was Bristol City at home, in the penultimate game of the season. That kid, I think, will come good. Being so young.
Definitely.
He kind of, we were talking about it when we did off camera the other day, not making a direct comparison, but his build, he's not like he's got a lot of weight on him like a Boz or a John Solis, but he's quite broad, he's quite tall. He's like an Erling Haaland build. Obviously, I'm not comparing the two in terms of quality at this point, but he's a very interesting player to watch.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to use the official title of Star Wars 4, he's a new hope, isn't he? And I was happy that we finished on this point, because I think it's a positivity aspect that's associated with this. There's been a lot of things that we've been through in the last X many minutes that we've been talking about, things that have gone wrong
we've done
for
shit
us.
Talking everybody at the club now.
Yeah. I think we've drained ourselves of that now.
Had a full season of it, really.
I think we have, haven't we? Yeah. But this is a kind of a glimpse into the future, I hope, a positive future, where not only him, but some of the other signings, it was a toss-up between this goal he scored and the one that Vicente got against Wrexham, because that was another glimpse at another player who's starting to come into his own. What happens with Ozzy or not, I don't know, but is the potential there for him to come in on loan again and maybe buy if we had the funds for it. It starts to look more positive when you consider those players and their impact in the last 6 games, albeit meaningless games, as it were. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, as you guys have already said. It's just an important goal for him because I think he wanted to get on the score sheet before the end of the season. He said it himself. It gives him confidence. He'll come back raring to go. He'll get a full pre-season, and he's now championship experienced. He's got a bit more know-how.
Definitely.
He's speaking to the likes of Duke, which is brilliant. I thought it was a great reference.
Yeah, that was cool.
You know, in his post-match interview to say that he'd been texting
Good to
him.
hear that.
You know, there is no better model professional and target man.
Yeah.
You know, at this level, you know, within this club than Duke, and you could do a lot worse than talk to him on a regular basis to get some tips on how to navigate through, you know, through that division. So nice to finish on a positive, and I think we've done the season some justice through what we just said.
How's it going, fellow Blues fans? Hope you're enjoying the channel so far and liking today's video. I wanted to take a minute of your time to talk about our sponsor, Bangla Lounge Indian Cuisine. For these 3 Blue boys, Bangla Lounge has been the go-to choice to enjoy the very finest in Indian cuisine for over a decade now. Made with the freshest ingredients using authentic recipes, Bangla Lounge produces some of the best Indian cuisine that I've ever tasted. And if you enjoy takeaway at the end of the week, orders for collection and delivery with a 15% discount, ordering direct through the website. If you enjoy a sit-down meal, you can enjoy this for a 2-for-1 offer, running up for Sunday to Thursday every week on main courses. Or if you're celebrating special occasions such as a birthday, Bangla Lounge offers a buffet restaurant every Sunday, running from 5:30pm to 10pm. So if you like a tasty curry or a sizzling tandoori, get yourself down to Bangla Lounge Hell's Owen. Links in the description below of our video. And if you'd like to fine dine after a win in the B9. Thanks very much. Now back to the podcast.
Just on the back of that, I just want to go on in terms of the viewers as well, watching, who've been us with all season. If you guys have done a prediction for the start of the season, let us know in the comments if any of you got it correct with 10th place. What I do know, I want to run through right now, because I'm going to take the credit for this, sort of. What did you go with?
I went with 6.
Dad?
12th.
Okay, so I went 9th, so I was the closest. Thank you very much. Do I win anything?
I think you get some barbecue sauce off Will Brazier.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Will,
Yeah.
make sure you send that
Will,
for us, son.
we've got to send that now, son. Come on.
Yeah, I think actually our sister Meg got it right. She said 10th.
Yeah,
I think she did actually.
yeah.
So actually,
So
kudos
shout out
to
to
Meg,
Meg.
really, then, to be
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so Meg's got to get the gift back
So,
now.
so the news is that we're all sacked next season. It'll
Yeah.
just be Meg, so,
Yeah.
you know, because we're just all shite.
Yeah, well, there we go. They're the predictions, and we didn't quite get them, did we?
No.
Funny, actually, while we are here, any predictions just at this point for next season?
Too early yet for that.
I think it's too early for that. Yeah, I think we've got to wait for the summer transfer window. I'd like us to at least just finish in the top 8.
I would say that we will finish in the top 8.
You know
I
what?
would say so as well. Just maybe a little bit of false confidence at this point, but I would expect us to.
I'm actually just going to put it out there right now. I'll end up changing my mind probably just in June or something. I'm just going to say 5th.
Okay.
Straight up right now.
All right.
And I've got to sit on that now because if we get it, I'll be like, fucking got it, didn't I?
Yeah.
And if we don't, look like a twat. Anyway.
We'll speak to Al, get him cut it out.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, bit of editing on that one. But yeah, that's the season summed up. Pretty much in the moments there. Obviously, a lot of them not so good. But then, you know, I think our general consensus of you guys will have seen this season from our post matches and our podcasts is that overall, for the money spent, at least in my opinion as well, is it's been disappointing in terms of the expectations set by the owners. I think someone actually made a comment in terms of ourselves and kind of what we expect from this season. The expectation really comes from the owners and the money spent. We go on the back of that. We're also realistic about it. You said 12th for a reason, Dad, about the fact that we've had many years of pessimism of this club. We went a little bit higher because, you know, we're the new boys around here with...
a little bit more optimistic still.
Yeah.
Hasn't quite worn down us yet, has it?
Yeah, but nonetheless, you know, as we say there, we finish on the new hope, as you mentioned there, Dad, with August Prisk and some of the other signings. I like that at least because to think about next season, I'd love for that to show the pragmatism about getting it done in the Championship, being a little bit more direct, which we've lacked this season. So for me, a disappointing season as far as expectations, but we go again. Wherever we go, we go. If you know who that is, fantastic reference.
Very good reference. Very well worked in there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Joe, I think it links into what I've talked about a lot this season and we have collectively. It's the pragmatism of Davis. So, like you said, we've got a new hope now, very much like you say, Dad, in the way of August Prisk and some of the January transfer signings as well. Hopefully the summer will strengthen that. Very much looks like the club are going to stick with Davis. So as far as I'm concerned, CD, there's the bar. Let's reach for it.
We just get behind him.
Absolutely, yeah.
We were there, first game of the season. it doesn't matter what's happened this season. Obviously, in the sense that, in the back of our heads, we'll be aware of it. But you just got to get behind them. At the end of the day, we're all Blues. FEA, as the boy in blue says, we get behind them.
Indeed we do. And I would be remiss, gentlemen, if I did not give us a few thanks in our first season as the Free Blue Boys podcast.
Absolutely.
Of course, we went live on the 25th of July 2025, and what a season it's been for us.
Yeah.
We're now at the date of recording on the Monday, 1,100 subscribers, way beyond, I think, any of our expectations, really, as much as we were ambitious for this podcast. I think very much, let's give the first thanks. Oh, by the way, if you don't like shout-outs or thanks, just skip to the end of the video. We'll see you next season.
Yep.
I think, first of all, to thank all our subscribers, viewers, listeners, anybody who's commented, come and spoke to us on a match day, and even fans of opposition teams. You guys are quite literally the lifeblood of this channel. If you guys were not here, there would be no Free Blue Boys podcast. So a massive thank you to everybody who has made this possible and continues to make it possible for us to create content and bring our opinions to you guys as well. And I think linking into that, gentlemen, as well, is as my fellow co-hosts. Thank you to you both as well.
Thank you to all of you.
It's not only just something to be able to talk about our beloved Birmingham City, but to do it with my dad and my brother as well just means so much more as well.
Yeah, it's a big thing for us, isn't it? Really?
It is, yeah. It's been a driving force, hasn't it, behind what we do?
It has indeed.
Yeah.
Certainly in the context of mine and Joe's granddad and your dad, obviously Reg as well. Of course, his shirt always features in the background as well.
As it does tonight, actually.
It does indeed,
It does.
absolutely. I would like to give thanks as well, even more personal to me, to my wife Grace, allowing me to go to all the games this season, doing the podcast every week and the post-match reactions, looking after our young boys in blue in Dylan and Tyler as well, and also my in-laws as well for helping her out with that as well. So thanks very much, babe. Love you. Particularly as well as her family of West Bromwich Albion fans as well, so they've definitely taken the hit on a personal note on that one for me as well. And also a shout out as well to also some fellow Blues content creators as well. We've loved your content this season as well, and all the shout outs you've given us as well for our channel as well. Obviously Jay the Boy in Blue featured in our very first episode of the first series of podcasts on here called Who Are You, and which we will definitely be inviting more Blues content creators on in the new season, so make sure you guys check that out as well. Jay's a fantastic guy and produces some brilliant content as well. Tommy Cowsall as well, fantastic as well. Match day vlogs that are always enjoyable as well to see as well. Gary and Matt over at BCFC Raw Blue as well, some fantastic content for them, some of the brilliant podcasts as well, really in-depth analysis from those guys as well. Love the setup as well in the studio you guys have got as well. And also a shout out as well to
Carl and Alfie.
Over at KRO 1875. Fantastic meeting you guys. I think it was partway through the season we met them as well, didn't we, Dad, at the ground as well, while in the concourse and the COP. And a shout out as well to Jamie, Max and Jordan over at Lawler's Law as well. Some of the content they've been producing is brilliant as well. Love their intro as well. Really a fan of the music on there as well. As rockers ourselves, that is very appealing as well.
Indeed.
And a shout out as well finally to Simon Brew as well, as some of the best humour we've seen as well all season as well from the Blues content creator as well. Something we've really enjoyed, and particularly the one as well following the Southampton home game where the referee was getting in his way for him getting in his chair prior to switching the camera on as well. That was brilliant. That was love that as well. And we did enjoy as well that as well as you mentioned prior to switching the camera on today, his final video of the season as well. Some good humour worked in as well there, and very much reason close to your own heart as well, Dad, for him doing what he does as well.
Yeah, with his own dad passing away during the course of this season actually, so I messaged him today and said, it resonated particularly with me and us collectively, so we've got you on that, Simon. We understand.
We have, definitely. And as we sign off for the season on this final podcast episode of the season, we want to sign off on a personal note, not only for us, but especially for our producer, Alex, as well, who has been dedicated to the Free Blue Boys podcast from the get-go, and it would not be possible without him as well.
Absolutely fantastic.
Sadly, Alex, this past Friday, as of recording this Monday, lost his granddad. And as of knowing Alex from my formative years at primary school, as we've been friends that long, I've come to know his family well over the years, and his granddad Alan as well. Alan was a kind, caring and compassionate man whose charisma shined through with some brilliant sense of humour as well. A renowned businessman in the local area as well, and somebody we'd all come to know and love over the years as well, not only myself, but Joe, Dad and the wider family as well. He will be sorely missed by his family, who were always at the forefront of everything he did as well, and we would like to dedicate this podcast to him, and in the words of our own famous song as well, Alan, until you see your family again, we hope you are in the place now where you find all the love you've been dreaming of, and we will see you at the end of the road. Rest in peace, Alan.